Ryan Cole walked home late at night, tired from a long shift at the repair station, and the street around him was silent and dark. The lamps flickered because of a power drop, and cold wind moved old papers across the ground like whispering ghosts. Ryan lived in a small human colony on the edge of the galaxy, a place where strange things happened, but nobody asked questions because everyone was busy surviving. He just wanted to reach his door, drink water, and sleep. But as he stepped into the narrow alley behind his building, he heard a soft, metallic sound, like a chain dragging on stone. He stopped. The sound came again, slow and shaky. Ryan looked around, but saw nothing. The alley was almost dark, only one weak light blinking above the trash bins, making everything look more frightening. He took one step forward, and the sound stopped. He took another step, and suddenly something small moved behind the bins. Ryan's heart jumped, but he forced himself to walk closer. He pushed the bin aside and froze. A small alien child sat on the cold ground, tied with a metal collar and a long chain. The child's skin was pale blue, covered with dust, and the eyes were wide with fear. The kid looked no older than 6 or 7 in human years. The alien flinched the moment Ryan appeared, as if expecting pain. Ryan raised both his hands slowly, showing he meant no harm. "It's okay," Ryan said softly. "I won't hurt you." But the child shook violently and whispered, voice weak and broken, "Please, don't send me back. Please." Those words hit Ryan like a punch. He had heard stories of alien kids sold as slaves, forced to fight in illegal arenas, owned by gangs that never got punished. But he never thought he would see one here, in his own colony. He knelt slowly so he wouldn't scare the child and looked closer. The metal collar had numbers burned into it. The wrists were bruised. The child's ankles had scars from old chains. "Who did this to you?" Ryan asked, but the child only shook again and hugged knees tightly, terrified of everything. Ryan looked down the alley, making sure no one else was watching. He knew the child didn't have much time. If the owners were nearby, they would come searching. And if they found the kid with him, they would not hesitate to kill him too. Ryan touched the chain gently. The child cried out in fear and pulled back, expecting punishment. That broke something deep inside Ryan. He hated cruelty, but seeing it done to a small child, an alien or human, made him furious. He stood up and looked around again. The alley seemed empty, but a strange sound echoed far away, like footsteps or claws scraping metal. Someone was searching. Someone was close. Ryan bent down again and whispered, "Listen, I'm going to help you. But you have to trust me. Can you walk?" The child nodded a little, scared but desperate. Ryan lifted the chain, tried to break it, but it was too strong. He pulled out a small pocket tool from his belt, a cutter he used at work, and began working fast. His hands shook as he tried to break the lock. Every second felt like danger growing behind him. The strange footsteps came again closer now. Finally, the lock snapped. The chain fell. The child gasped softly, touching the neck as if unable to believe it was free. Ryan picked the kid up with both arms because the child was too weak to stand. He rushed out of the alley toward his apartment door, heart pounding like a hammer. As he opened the door, he heard a low growl behind him in the dark. Something or someone had just found the empty chain. Ryan stepped inside quickly and shut the door. The child hid against his chest, whispering one last broken sentence. "They will come for me. They always come." Ryan looked at the door and whispered back, "Not tonight. Not while I'm here." And the nightmare truly began. Ryan carried the alien child into his small apartment and locked the door behind him. But even inside, he felt danger pressing on the walls. The child clung to his shirt like a tiny creature trying to disappear, trembling so hard that Ryan could feel every shake. He switched on a small desk lamp, keeping the room dim so the kid wouldn't panic. "It's okay," Ryan whispered. "You're safe here." The child didn't answer. The big blue eyes kept scanning every shadow, every corner, like someone who had learned that safety never lasted. Ryan gently placed the kid on the couch. For a moment, they just stared at each other, the human trying to understand and the alien trying to trust. Ryan noticed dried blood on the child's neck, so he grabbed a clean towel and warm water. When he touched the collar marks, the kid flinched hard and covered the neck with both hands. "I won't hurt you," Ryan said again, softer this time. "Let me help." Slowly, the child lowered their hands. Ryan cleaned the wounds carefully. As he wiped the skin, he saw letters burned into the collar marked like a brand. His stomach twisted. This was not an accident. This was ownership. "What's your name?" Ryan asked gently. The child spoke in a quiet, shaking voice. "Tori." "Tari," Ryan repeated, trying to give comfort with the voice alone. "I'm Ryan. Ryan Cole." Tari nodded slightly, but the fear stayed. The small hands kept shaking. Ryan continued cleaning the cuts on the arms and legs. That's when he noticed something even worse: old scars. Long and deep. The kind that came from whips or metal rods. Ryan froze for a moment. "Who did this to you?" Tari lowered their head. "My owners." The word owners made Ryan's jaw tighten. "You're a child," Ryan said. "No one should own you." But Tari only shook again, like those words were a beautiful idea, but not a real thing. Ryan stood and went to close the curtains. As he pulled one shut, he froze. Across the street, a dark figure stood under a flickering light. Not moving, not blinking, just watching the building. Tari saw Ryan's face change and whispered with terror, "They found me." Ryan turned off all lights instantly. The room went dark except for the street outside. The figure remained still, as if smelling the air, as if waiting. Ryan whispered Tari, "Tell me everything." The child hesitated, then began speaking in a trembling, broken flow. "Gang. Took me from my village. Sold me. Made me fight. Made all children fight. If we lose, we get punished. If we cry, we get punished. If we fail, they sell us again." Ryan felt anger rising hot and sharp. "How long were you with them?" "A long time," Tari whispered. "Humans don't help us. Humans give children back to owners. Always." Ryan went silent. He knew it was true. The law on this colony said alien property belonged to alien owners. Even the police followed that rule. If he called for help, they would take Tari straight back. Not happening, not tonight, not ever. Ryan knelt beside the couch so Tari could see his face clearly. "I'm not giving you back," he said firmly. Tari stared at him in disbelief, as if no one had ever said that before. "But humans get punished if they keep us." "Let them try," Ryan said. A sudden noise outside made Tari jump. Something metallic. Something big. The hunters were checking the area. Ryan grabbed his toolkit and pulled out a small scanner. He used it on Tari's neck. A tiny chip beeped under the skin. "They put a tracker inside you," Ryan whispered. Tari's eyes filled with tears. "I can't escape them. They always find me." Ryan stood up with new determination. "Maybe they always found you before," he said. "But you weren't with me before." Outside, footsteps and low alien voices grew louder. Tari whispered, terrified, "Ryan, they're coming." Ryan looked at the door with fire in his eyes. "Then let them come," he said, "because I'm not letting them take you." And the hunt truly began. Ryan stood in the dark apartment, listening to the slow, heavy footsteps outside the door. Each step sounded too controlled, too careful, like someone trained to move with silence. Tari crouched behind the couch, hugging their knees, eyes wide with fear. Ryan placed one finger on his lips, signaling Tari to stay quiet. The apartment felt colder than before, as if danger itself was breathing through the cracks in the wall. A soft scraping sound came from the hallway. Something metallic dragged across the floor, long, sharp, and designed to cut. Ryan's heart hammered, but he forced his breaths to stay steady. He moved to the window and peeked through a tiny gap in the curtain. 3 alien hunters stood outside the building, tall, armored, and marked with glowing tattoos. These were not low-level gang members. These were professionals trackers hired to retrieve runaway property. Their eyes scanned the street like predators. One of them sniffed the air, then looked directly toward Ryan's window. Ryan stepped back immediately. Tari whispered, "They know. They can smell me. How long until they reach this door?" Ryan whispered back, "Not long." As if, on cue, there was a slow, deliberate knock, too soft to be friendly, too confident to be normal. Ryan didn't answer. Another knock, harder this time. The third knock shook the entire door. A deep voice growled from the hallway. "Human, return the child, now." Ryan didn't move. The voice grew colder. "You cannot protect what belongs to us." Ryan gripped a wrench from his toolkit, not because it would win a fight, but because he needed anything to stand his ground. He whispered to Tari, "Stay behind me. Don't make a sound." The door handle turned slowly, locked. Then a second handle turned, one Ryan didn't even know existed. A retracting security latch inside the wall clicked. Someone was bypassing his lock. Someone trained. Ryan only had seconds. "Tari," he whispered, "we need to run." Tari tried to stand, but their legs were weak. Ryan grabbed the kid in his arms and ran toward the back window. Before he could open it, the front door exploded inward with a violent blast. Wood broke, metal flew. Smoke spread across the room. Asterisk. 3 hunters entered like shadows. Their eyes glowed yellow. Their armor crackled with red energy lines. Tari screamed. Ryan jumped toward the window, kicked it open, and climbed out onto the narrow metal ledge. The cold night wind rushed around them. Below was a steep drop to the alley. If he slipped, both of them would break bones or worse. A hunter appeared behind him. "You cannot escape, human." Ryan glanced down. The ledge continued around the building. It was narrow, unstable, and covered in dust, but it was the only path. He stepped sideways, keeping his back against the wall, holding Tari tight. The hunter stepped onto the ledge after him. The wind blew stronger. One wrong move, and they would fall. "Tari, hold on," Ryan whispered. The child clung to him with shaking hands. Ryan moved slowly, inch by inch, as the hunter followed. Another hunter appeared from below, climbing the pipes. A third waited at the corner. They were surrounded. "Tari," Ryan whispered, "when I say jump, you jump." Tari's voice broke. "I can't. I'm too scared." "I know," Ryan said softly. "But your life starts today. Not with them. With me." The hunter reached forward to grab Ryan. Ryan leaped off the ledge. They fell 2 floors, crashing into a pile of trash bags and broken crates. Pain shot through Ryan's ribs, but he kept Tari tightly wrapped in his arms. The hunters screamed from above, angry but unable to follow the same risky jump. Ryan stood, breathless, groaning in pain. "We don't stop," he whispered. "We run." He grabbed Tari's hand and sprinted into the dark maze of alleyways, while the furious hunters climbed down and began chasing again. The real chase had begun. Ryan and Tari ran through the maze of dark alleys until Ryan's lungs burned and his legs felt heavy. But he didn't stop. Not even for a second. Behind them, the hunters' growls echoed through the night, bouncing off metal walls like cold reminders that danger was never far. Tari held Ryan's arm tightly, stumbling with every step, still shaking after the fall. Finally, Ryan crashed through the back door of an old mechanic shop one he used to work in before switching jobs. The room was dusty, silent, and filled with the smell of old oil. Ryan locked the door and dragged a heavy metal shelf in front of it. He collapsed beside Tari, breathing hard. "We're safe." For a moment, he whispered. Tari curled into a small ball, trying to stay invisible. The kid's breath came in tiny, scared gasps. Ryan put a hand gently on their shoulder. "You're doing great. We made it out." Tari lifted their face. They won't stop. They never stop. Ryan looked toward the door, knowing the child was right. Hunters didn't fail. Not unless something bigger stopped them. Not unless someone fought back harder than they expected. "I won't let them take you," Ryan said again, this time with more fire in his voice. "I need to understand everything. Why did they want you so badly? Why were you marked?" Tari hesitated, then whispered, "They train children to fight in the pit. People bet money. If we win, they feed us. If we lose..." Tari's voice broke. "They hurt us or sell us again." Ryan's stomach clenched. "You're a child, not a tool." Tari wiped their tears with shaking hands. "Humans don't adopt alien kids. If authorities find me, they'll send me back." Ryan thought about that. It wasn't a rumor, it was the truth. Human colonies followed alien law. Alien property belonged to alien owners. Humans had zero power to challenge it, unless... Ryan suddenly stood up and began digging through old drawers. "What are you doing?" Tari asked softly. "Something crazy," Ryan said, pulling out a dusty old datapad. "Something stupid. Something humans aren't supposed to do." Tari blinked. "What?" Ryan turned on the datapad and began typing fast. "I'm filing a claim to adopt you." Tari stared at him like he had said the most impossible sentence in the universe. "You can't. They'll punish you. The whole colony will turn on you." "Let them," Ryan muttered. "You need protection. You're not going back to them, ever." But before the claim could finish loading, the screen flashed red. "Request denied. Alien minors cannot be claimed by humans. Return the property to its registered owner." Tari's shoulders fell. "I told you. They don't see me as a person." Ryan slammed the datapad onto the table, furious. "Then we expose everything." Tari looked confused. "Expose? What?" Ryan leaned closer. "The slave ring. The fights. The owners, everything. If the galaxy sees the truth, they will protect you, even if the system won't." "But how?" Tari whispered. Ryan pointed at an old communication terminal. "This shop is connected to the local council feed. If we get proof, I can send it straight to the public network." Tari's eyes widened with a tiny spark of hope. "You want to show everyone what they do to us?" "Yes," Ryan said. "And once the truth is out, no one will dare return you to them." A loud bang hit the outside wall. Ryan froze. The hunters had found their scent. Another bang closer, harder. Tari grabbed Ryan's arm. "They're breaking through." Ryan looked around for anything he could use. Tools, pipes, old machines, nothing strong enough to fight them. He grabbed Tari and moved to the back exit. "I'm not giving up," Ryan whispered. "Not on you. Not on anyone." The wall cracked as a clawed hand punched through the metal. Ryan burst out the back door, dragging Tari with him. In that moment, he understood something simple and terrifying. He was no longer running from hunters. He was running against an entire system. And he was ready to fight. Ryan sprinted through the narrow back alley with Tari close behind him, the cold night air cutting against their skin like tiny blades. Every breath felt heavy. Every step felt louder than it should. Behind them, the hunters were smashing their way into the mechanic shop, metal walls bending like paper under their strength. Tari stumbled once, and Ryan immediately scooped the child into his arms again. "It's okay," he whispered. "I've got you." But inside his chest, fear and anger fought like fire. He was just one human. The hunters were trained killers, and the system itself wanted the child returned. How long could he protect Tari? They reached the end of the alley where a tall fence blocked the way. Ryan set Tari down and started climbing, but a deep growl echoed behind them. "They're close," Tari whispered, voice shaking. Ryan looked back. Shadows moved at the far end of the alley. The hunters had found their trail again. Their glowing eyes were like open wounds in the darkness. Ryan jumped down the other side of the fence and reached up for Tari. "Come on, kid, jump." Tari tried but froze halfway. Fear locked their legs. I can't." "You can," Ryan insisted. "Trust me." But before Tari could move, a loud metallic thump hit the fence. A hunter landed on top of it, crouched like a monstrous beast, staring down at both of them. Ryan's heart stopped. Tari gasped. "They're going to take me." "No," Ryan said. "Not while I breathe." The hunter raised a clawed hand, ready to leap. And then something strange happened. Tari screamed not out of fear, but out of something deeper. A sound burst from their throat. Not a normal scream. A vibrating, sharp, shaking wave of energy that hit the air and grew. Ryan felt at first a pressure like the air itself was shrinking. The hunter felt it too. The metal fence shook. Dust exploded off the walls. The hunter froze mid-jump armor, humming as if hit by lightning. Then the sound wave blasted outward. The hunter was thrown backward like a rag doll, crashing into the alley wall with a ringing metallic crash. Ryan stared at Tari in shock. What was that? Tari clutched their head, breathing fast. I don't know. It happens when I'm scared. I can make sound. Strong sound. But it hurts. It drains me. Ryan stepped forward and gently caught the child as their legs weakened. Hey, look at me, he whispered, kneeling. That wasn't weakness. That was power. Tari shook their head, tears falling. If I use it too much, I could die. That's why the gangs used us. Some kids could make sound waves. They forced us to fight with it. Ryan's stomach twisted again. They used children as weapons. Tari nodded. They always said we were tools, not people. Ryan wiped the child's tears with his sleeve. You're not a tool. You're not a weapon. You're a kid. And I'll help you control this power your way, not theirs. Tari leaned against his chest, exhausted. But there was no time to rest. The sound blast had slowed the hunters, but hadn't stopped them. Growls echoed deeper in the alley. They were coming again, angrier now. Ryan lifted Tari back into his arms. Hang on. We need to get far from here. He moved through back streets, keeping to the shadows, avoiding cameras and patrol lights. Every step, he checked Tari's breathing. The child looked drained, but safe. As they reached a quiet corner behind an old warehouse, Tari finally whispered, "Why are you helping me so much?" Humans don't fight alien gangs. Humans don't hide alien kids. Ryan looked at the small, fragile face marked with pain, fear, and years of suffering no child deserved. Because you needed someone, he said softly. And because you're worth fighting for? Tari's eyes softened, something new appearing their trust. Before Ryan could say more, a loud alarm blared across the entire colony. Screens lit up on nearby towers. Wanted alert. Human man protecting alien property. Reward. Hi. Return the child immediately. Ryan stared at the glowing message. The hunters weren't the only problem now. The whole colony was being turned against him, and he still refused to let go. Ryan pulled Tari deeper into the shadows behind the warehouse as the colony-wide alarm echoed like a storm. Red lights flashed on every building, and a robotic voice repeated the same message over and over. Wanted human detected. Surrender immediately. Tari clutched Ryan's sleeve tightly, trembling again. They told the whole colony. Everyone will try to catch us now. Ryan knew it was true. A reward this big meant bounty hunters, security drones, and even normal citizens might come after him. People didn't care about truth. People cared about money. And the alien gang had just turned every person into a threat. But Ryan didn't flinch. "Let them come," he whispered. "We keep moving." He guided Tari through the maze of back alleys, past silent buildings, past shops where terrified citizens peeked from windows. Some recognized Ryan from the alert. Doors locked. Lights turned off. No one wanted trouble with alien gangs. No one wanted to help a small alien child whose existence broke the law. Tari's breathing grew shaky. "Ryan, what if they take you too? Humans who break alien law, they disappear." Ryan kept his voice steady. "That won't happen. I promise." But deep inside, he knew this night could easily become his last. They reached the outer edge of the colony. Ahead was the human outpost, a place with stronger walls, heavy guards, and a communication tower connected to multiple star systems. If Ryan reached that tower, he could broadcast the truth about Tari and the slave ring. But getting inside was another challenge. Searchlights swept across the fields. Hover drones hummed in the sky. Armed guards scanned ID chips of everyone entering. If Ryan got close, he would be arrested on the spot. He took a slow breath. "We need another way in." Tari pointed weakly to a drainage tunnel. "The pipe? I used to sneak through places like that." Ryan nodded. "Good. Let's try." They crawled into the tunnel. Cold water dripped from above, and the metal walls echoed every sound they made. Tari followed behind him, coughing softly from exhaustion. Halfway through, Ryan heard something behind them, a metallic clank, then another. He turned. 3 hunters were crawling into the tunnel. "Tari, run." They scrambled forward as fast as they could, but the tunnel forced them to move slow. The hunters' glowing eyes grew brighter behind them. Tari stumbled. Ryan grabbed the child and pulled them along. Suddenly, the tunnel opened into a large storage room under the outpost. They climbed out fast, but the hunters were right behind. Ryan blocked the opening with a heavy crate, buying seconds. "Stay behind me," he said, grabbing a metal rod from the floor. Tari hid, trying to breathe. The crate shattered. 3 hunters burst into the room. One raised a weapon. "Human, hand over the child." Ryan stepped forward, gripping the rod so hard his knuckles turned white. No, the hunters charged. Ryan swung with all his strength. The rod smashed against armor but barely dented it. A hunter backhanded him, sending him crashing into a wall. Pain exploded in his ribs. Tari screamed. Something inside the child snapped again. A second wave of sound exploded from Terabut, stronger than the one in the alley. Chemical barrels rattled. Metal plates fell. The ground vibrated. The hunters staggered, covering their ears, armor shaking as the sonic force tore at their balance. But Tari collapsed immediately after, barely conscious. "Ryan, I can't." "Do it again." Ryan crawled to the child and pulled them into his arms. Footsteps echoed above. More guards. More eyes. More danger. But something strange happened. Instead of arresting him, the human outpost soldiers paused. They looked at Tar's small, pale, shaking hand. then at the hunters recovering on the ground. One soldier whispered, "They're enslaving children. Alien children." Another said, "We've heard rumors. But this?" Ryan stood, holding Tari tightly. "I need to broadcast the truth. Let the galaxy see what's happening." One guard stepped forward and pointed to the tower stairs. "Go. Hurry, before the hunters get up." Ryan ran up the stairs with Tari in his arms, leaving the stunned hunters behind. The moment he reached the top, he knew the entire galaxy was about to witness something that would change everything. And none of them were ready for what came next. Ryan reached the top of the communication tower with Tari cradled in his arms. The cold night wind hit them immediately, sharp and strong. But Ryan barely felt it. His mind was racing. The full colony alarm still echoed through the sky. The red lights still flashing across buildings, and he knew the hunters would reach him soon. They were faster, stronger, and desperate now. But Ryan had one advantage left. Truth. He placed Tari gently beside the control panel. The child was weak, half-conscious, breathing in short, painful breaths. "Stay with me," Ryan whispered. "Just a little longer." Tari opened their eyes for a moment. "Ryan, I'm scared." "I know," he said softly, brushing the child's hair away from their face. "But everything is going to change tonight. I promise." He turned to the console. Old, rusty, but powerful. He began pressing buttons, bypassing filters, connecting wires, overriding security. Years working in repair stations had made him good with machines. And tonight, he needed to be perfect. Below the tower, guards formed a line to slow the hunters, but Ryan could hear the distant roars and metallic crashes. The hunters were cutting through the wall now. No time left. He activated the broadcast. Every screen in the colony blinked. Every holodisplay across nearby stations flickered. Even ships passing in orbit saw static snow. Then Ryan's live image appeared everywhere. A human man with dust on his face. Blood on his shirt. Eyes filled with fury and fear. And behind him a small, shaking alien child with scars, bruises, and terror written across their small body. Ryan spoke slowly, voice steady despite everything. "My name is Ryan Cole, and this is Tari. A child who has been chained, hunted, and used as a weapon by alien gangs. Not for days. Not for weeks. For years." Every screen across half the sector stayed silent. Ryan continued, louder now. "Children are not property. Not human. Not alien. Not any species. What is happening here is slavery. And the law that returns children to their abusers is not justice, it is corruption." Tari lifted their head weakly, visible to billions watching. Ryan stayed in front of them protectively. "This child is no one's weapon, no one's tool, and no one's property. Starting today, they are under my protection." He took a deep breath and said the words that would ignite the galaxy. "I am claiming Tari as my son." The entire outpost fell silent. The entire colony froze. Alien worlds watching the feed gasped. Human colonies stared in shock. Even criminal networks paused. Ryan placed a hand over Tari's trembling shoulder. "And I will fight any law, any gang, any council, any species that tries to take him away." The wind howled across the tower. The alarms continued to scream. But Ryan stood still. Below, the hunters finally broke through the barricade and stormed the tower. Guards tried to hold them back, but were pushed aside. One hunter roared, "Stop the broadcast!" Ryan didn't move. "I'm not stopping anything." The hunter leaped forward and was blasted backward by a sudden wall of sonic force. Tari was awake, standing, eyes glowing with raw, untamed power. Their voice shook the air. "Don't touch my father." The sound wave didn't kill the hunter, but it threw him so far he crashed through a metal container 2 floors below. Ryan spun to the child. "Tari, you'll hurt yourself." Tari stumbled, coughing, and Ryan caught them before they fell. But something changed at that moment. Because the entire galaxy had seen it. A child protecting a human. A human protecting a child not for reward, not for strength, but for love. Guards on the ground raised their weapons not at Ryan, not at Tari, but at the hunters. One soldier shouted, "Protect the kid." Protect them both. For the first time in history, humans and aliens chose sides together. The hunters retreated, realizing the public eye was now on them. Their power was gone. Their secret exposed. Their crimes recorded across thousands of screens. And at dawn, when the Galaxy Council called an emergency meeting, the final message arrived. Human adoption of alien minors is approved. Effective immediately. Tari cried into Ryan's chest. "Does that mean I stay with you?" Ryan hugged them tightly, voice breaking. "Yes, you're home now." The galaxy had seen something it never expected. Not human strength, not human violence, but human love strong enough to rewrite the law of entire worlds. And Ryan Cole, an ordinary human mechanic, became a symbol across the stars, the first man to adopt an alien child. The man who changed the galaxy with nothing but courage and a father's heart.